Hello everybody, Tall Paul here with Left-Handed Knife Reviews, and today we have ourselves a knife fight. This knife fight was actually conceptualized by a comment from a viewer on one of our previous videos, asking to kind of show the differences between the Elementum and the Scepter. And for a lot of left-handed individuals, there's one large flaw with the Elementum, so today we decided to pit the Elementum up against what we think are two really good options for somebody looking for a great knife but can't get past the left-handed pocket clip. So today we have the Civivi Elementum versus the Sencut Septer and the Civivi Pintail. Let's get right into it. Alright, for our weigh-in, we have a lot of similar dimensions amongst these knives. For blade length, we're going to have a 2.97 on the Septer, 2.96 on the Elementum, and an even 3 inches over here on the Pintail. Cutting edges are all going to be in the same ballpark. Steels on the three knives are going to be different. 9CR18 D2 S35 VN. Your handle length is all going to hover right around that 4-inch mark. Elementum a little bit over, Pintail right at, Septer just under. And your weights are going to be anywhere from 2.55 ounces at the lightest to 2.89 ounces at the heaviest. I'm going to throw a couple items on the screen for size comparison, as the full dimensions of the knife will appear on the screen. Alright, first up we are going to have our unsharpened Dixon Ticonderoga pencil. Get that into frame. You can follow that up with the Ontario Rat Model 2 in D2 steel. We will throw our Benchmade bug out on the screen. Follow that up with our QSP Penguin. And last but not least, the left-handed Paramilitary 2. Alright, in our first round we are going to take a look at the similarities between the knives. Alright, as stated before, all three of these knives have approximately 3-inch blade, with that action running on bearings. The handle length, handle thickness, and overall length on all three knives is also very similar. All three knives have deep carry pocket clips with recessed screws, and all three options have both G10 and micarta options when you're trying to decide on which selection you want to go with. Round 2, the differences. Now we have a fight on our hands. First up, we have the deploy. All three knives have a flipper tab, and all three knives deploy really well with it. The Pintail is the smoothest of the three knives out of the box, followed closely by the Elementum. With the Septer, the detent feels a little bit stronger and the flipper tab is very small, so this knife is slightly more difficult to deploy than the other two. Now, with both the Septer and the Pintail, they both have thumb studs in addition to the flipper tab. We found this additional deployment method quite nice, and we did often use the thumb stud over the flipper tab. The downside to having both is that if you're using the whole blade to cut something, the thumb stud can get in the way. I was doing some food prep with the Pintail, and I was cutting a pear for a cheese plate, and when cutting the pear, the thumb stud did become kind of an annoyance for that task. Alright, so we've talked about the deployment. Now that the knives are deployed, let's talk about the blades. All three knives have a drop point blade. The Septer in 9CR18 MOV, which is a pretty good entry-level steel. The Elementum in D2, which is one of our preferred steels around this price. And the Pintail comes in an S35 VN, which is a really solid steel, especially at that $80 price point. You can see here the grinds and the shapes of the knives are all incredibly similar. Starting with the Septer, the blade height is the smallest. And as you go up with each knife, you can see the top of the blade gets a little bit taller each time, but the actual blade section stays about the same size. And then with the pintail, you end up with this additional grinding along the spine of the blade, and it almost turns into a modified drop point. The pintail is also the thinnest of the three blades, coming in at 0.1 inches versus the Elementum and Scepter at 0.12. The last thing we'll take a look at is the ergos. All three knives are smaller knives. The Septer has a smaller diameter than the pintail or the Elementum, and all three of the handles are right around 3 inches. At this length, our larger hands did have some space struggles. Both the Elementum and the Septer have incredibly straight spines along the back of the knife. The Elementum has a little bit of jimping right along the back of the blade for where your thumb lands, and the Septer does not. The pintail stands out here as the whole knife curves a little bit and fits really well right in the palm of the hand. And it also has a really nice spot right here with a little bit of jimping on it for your thumb to fit right in, as well as a nice little cutout for your index finger to sit in while using the knife. All three knives have really good deep carry pocket clips that make these knives carry incredibly well. The flattest of the pocket clip tips is the Elementum. Both the pintail and the Septer end up being just a little bit more pokey than the Elementum. Round 3, everything that's left. Part of the knife fight, we talk about everything left-handed. All three of these knives are going to be a liner lock knife. So you're going to have your normal liner lock problems when locking up. For deploy, flipper tab is going to give you identical experience as a left-handed person that a right-handed person would have with the knife. The thumb studs for both the Septer and the pintail are fairly left-handed, considerate. The Septer's thumb stud is right up against the scale on both sides for both left and right-handed people. And for the pintail, you have almost an identical cutout and ramping for left-handed individuals as you do for right-handed individuals. So it is a breeze to open both left and right-handed. The liner locks on all these knives are really good. This is something We Knives has really brought to both of its budget brands. The liner locks are very easily manipulated single-handedly for a left-handed individual. There's a nice little bit of jimping along it so that it's not a super slick surface so that you can get good purchase. Septer, reversible pocket clip for carry on either the left or right-handed side. Pintail, same story, reversible pocket clip for carry on the left or right-handed side. Elementum, odd man out, non-reversible pocket clip. If you go back to the Elementum review, the pocket clip part of it is a bummer because you end up putting, if you want to carry on the left-hand side, you end up putting the flipper tab towards the back of your pocket and the blade towards the front of your pocket. So if something should get in the back, it can pop open in your pocket, causing a little bit of a safety concern. The other issue with having the pocket clip on this side is if you are using the knife in a hard use situation and you try to bear down, your fingertips will be digging right into the pocket clip, which for your middle finger, you know, if you go over the top, you can kind of dig in that first knuckle. It is incredibly uncomfortable. So it is kind of a bummer that it's not reversible or they don't make a left-handed Elementum. But that is part of the reason for this video is this is a deal breaker for some, and these are some alternatives. All right, so let's move on to our fight decision. How do these two knives stack up to the Elementum? First and foremost, your money will not be poorly spent on any of these knives. These are really good knives for EDC use and a really great value for the money. This knife fight comes down to a few things. All of these knives have a great action and a really good blade. As an EDC knife, all of these knives function very close to each other. When it comes to left-handed individuals, we start to see a gap here, and the Elementum does start to fall behind. This is largely due to the pocket clip not being reversible on the Elementum, and the flipper tab not really providing a sizable improvement over the thumb stud and flipper tab. If you're looking for the S35 VN Elementum and you are left-handed, get the Pintail. In our opinion, it is a superior knife for left-handed individuals, and for right-handed individuals, the ergos are a step above the Elementum, so we would again direct you towards the Pintail if you're looking at that S35 VN version of the Elementum. If you're looking at the D2 version of the Elementum, like the one shown here, it is a really good knife at that price. The Septer does definitely compete in a few ways. It carries great, it has that double deploy, and it is $10 less than an Elementum. And with that reversible pocket clip, we believe it edges out the Elementum for lefties. If you are right-handed, the hollow ground blade in D2 steel is a really nice upgrade for that $10. And it really throws the two in a dead heat, with the Elementum pulling just a little bit ahead for right-handed individuals. At that $50 price point though, you are inching closer to that of the Pintail. And that's when you have to start considering that $30 jump to S35 VN might be something you want to do, but that's a fight for another day. Thank you for joining us for this knife fight. This is our opinion, and we want to hear your comments below. Let us know which one you would pick. Let us know if you're right or left-handed. Thank you very much for joining us today, and be sure to subscribe for more great knife content. We'll see you next time.